So, God, right? He's hanging out in this universe that pretty much has nothing in it, so he gets understandably bored, and he decides, okay, there's gonna be light, so bam, there's light. There's also darkness, and he's like, holy shit, darkness, I better go to sleep. So he goes to sleep. Next day. Day 2, he's like, oh, nothing but water. I'm gonna create the firmament. So he uses the firmament to divide the water from the other water. So the water that's above the firmament, that's heaven. The water below the firmament, that's earth. Except it's not earth, it's water. Anyway, he goes to sleep. Next day, he wakes up, and he's like, oh man, I gotta make some land. So he makes some land, and he makes some plants on that land. And then he goes to sleep again, because he's tired. So he wakes up again, and then he's like, I need to make some stars, and I need to make the sun and the moon. Now, where was the light coming from before that? I don't really understand that part. Anyway, then he's got the moon, and he's like, oh shit, it must be nighttime again, so he goes to sleep. Then he wakes up, and he's like, I need to make some animals. So he makes all these flying animals and swimming animals, especially whales. He makes a whole bunch of whales. Bible is very specific on this point. Anyway, then he goes to sleep again. He wakes up, and he's like, this is awesome. I need someone to ruin it. So he makes man. And he also makes cows, because he forgot to make cows. And then he goes to sleep again, because he's really tired at this point. So he sleeps, like, all day on Sunday. And then he gets up, and he makes the Garden of Eden, and he gives man a soul, and he puts man in the garden, and he's like, there's so many plants in here, you can eat from all of them, except for that one, except for the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat from that one. And man, whose name is Adam, he's like, oh, I'm pretty bored. And God is like, you know what you should do? Go around, name all the animals, I will write those names down, and those will be the names of the animals. And Adam's like, oh, that sounds like an okay game. So he goes around, he names all the animals, and God writes down all the names. And Adam's like, I'm still bored. And God's like, all right, check it out. I got an idea. So he knocks Adam out. And then this is like some Tijuana shit. Like, he steals one of his ribs while he's sleeping, and he turns it into a chick. And then Adam wakes up, like, in a bathtub surrounded by eyes, like, oh, what the fuck did you do? And he wakes up, and he finds Eve was the chick. And he's like, oh my god, I can get laid now. So they go off frolicking, and God is like, remember, don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And they're like, sure, whatever, dude. So then this serpent shows up. Well, Eve is like off on her own, and the serpent's like, hey, Eve, check it out. Have you eaten from all the trees in this garden? And Eve is like, yeah. And the serpent's like, what about the tree of knowledge of good and evil? And Eve is like, well, God told me if I ate from that one, I would die. And the serpent's like, come on. So Eve eats one of the apples from the tree. And then she's like, holy shit, I have all this knowledge now of good and evil. So she brings the apple over to Adam, and she's like, Adam, eat some of this apple. And Adam is like, I don't know, God said I would die. And Eve is like, look, I already ate it, I'm not dead. And Adam's like, okay, so he eats some of it. And then they both realize how naked they are, because apparently that was just not something that occurred to them before. So they're like, holy shit, we need to make some aprons out of fig leaves. So they do that. How do you do that? Anyway, they did it. And then God shows up, and he's like, wait, what the fuck are you guys wearing? And they're like, we're wearing some clothes because we're naked. And God's like, who told you were naked? Because apparently this is all just some huge ploy on God's part to have naked people running around forever and just be completely unaware of it. Like, God is the ultimate voyeur. And I'm sorry if I'm being kind of hard on God, but when you're the only person in your pantheon, you kind of attract all of my rage simultaneously. You don't get to spread it out over, like, you know, the God of thunder and the God of other shit. It's just God. So he's just going to catch all the shit. Anyway, then God is really pissed off. Everybody's in a lot of trouble. And first he's like, serpent? And serpent's like, what? And God's like, I'm going to curse the fuck out of you. You are going to have to crawl around on your belly forever without any legs. And the serpent's like, really? That's what I do anyway. All right, well, yeah, that's great. So he gets out of there. And then then God is like, Eve, all right, you are going to have incredibly painful childbirth from now on. And Eve is like, oh, so it's going to be painful now for me to push something the size of, like, a football out of my vagina. Okay. Yeah, please. Okay. So she gets out of there, and then Adam's like, all right, what are you going to do to me? And God's like, you're going to have to work really hard forever. And Adam's like, seriously? You gave those other people, like, not real curses, and that's a real curse. Fine, so he gets out of there, and then God puts this big flaming sword spinning in front of the garden, and he puts some cherubim, which doesn't actually sound that scary, but the flaming sword sounds sweet. Anyway, then Adam is out there, and Eve is out there, and they start banging. They bang up a storm. So they have these two kids. They have Cain and Abel. And those guys, one of them, Cain, he makes like a field of fruit and shit, and Abel raises lambs, and then they both, like, Abel brings to sacrifice to God some of his best lambs, and Cain brings a bunch of, like, fruit and shit. And God doesn't really like Cain's sacrifice, because apparently he's not a vegetarian pansy, and he really likes Abel's sacrifice, which is all these lambs. And Cain is like, what the fuck, God? And God's like, well, I mean, lambs is pretty sweet, right? You just gave me some fruit and shit. And so Cain responds in the only sensible way, which is to murder his brother. And then God shows up like, Abel, you got any more of those lambs? I'm having some people over later. We're going to have a party. What the fuck happened? Cain, do you know where your brother is? And Cain's like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do? And God's like, you killed him, didn't you? And Cain's like, how would you know that? And God is like, your hands are covered in blood, and so is the ground. Dude, you're getting punished. And Cain's like, oh, fuck, don't punish me. And God's like, I'm going to punish you harder than I ever punished anybody else before. So you're not going to be able to plant any shit, and everybody's going to hate you forever. And Cain's like, but then the first time somebody sees me, they're going to kill me. It's going to suck. And God's like, no, I'm going to put a mark on your forehead that means nobody can kill you, or they're going to have a ton of bad luck. And Cain's like, that actually doesn't sound like that much of a curse. I'm okay with that. So he goes over and lives in the land of Nod for a really long time. And then a whole bunch of people have sex. Like, there's just like pages and pages of people having sex and living for 800 years and then having more kids. But it doesn't really matter because everybody's going to die anyway, because God decides that everybody sucks and that he's going to flood the whole world and kill all of them. Except for this dude Noah, who's apparently like super righteous. So he shows up to Noah and he's like, Noah, I need you to build a boat and put a whole bunch of animals on it and put your family on it, and then I'm going to kill everybody else. And Noah's like, sweet, alright. So he builds a boat and he puts 2 of every animal on it, and then he puts his family on it. And then God rains the fuck out of everything for 40 days and 40 nights, and then for 7 months it's all flooded. I don't even know what they eat on this boat, but they eat something. But then after a while, Noah's kind of getting kind of bored, so he takes a dove that's on the boat, and he's like, go find land! And the dove goes and comes back, doesn't find anything. After he tries this 3 times, finally the dove brings him back an olive branch, which apparently means that he found land somewhere, but that's not really very helpful, so Noah sends him away again, he never comes back. Maybe he dies of exhaustion or something. Anyway, finally the water goes away, and they all get out of the boat, and Noah builds an altar, and he like sets fire to half the animals in honor of God. And God's like, sweet, more burning animals. All right, I'm going to make a rainbow. So he makes a rainbow as like a token of good faith that he's not going to pull this kind of bullshit again. And Noah thinks that's pretty sweet, so his immediate response is to plant a bunch of grapes and get shit-faced and fall asleep naked in his tent. At which point, one of his sons, his youngest son, comes in and sees him naked, and he's like, oh, fuck! My dad's naked, and he goes and tells his brothers, and his brothers come in without looking at their dad's junk and cover him over in some like clothes. And then Noah wakes up and is like, youngest son, did you see me naked? I'm gonna make you a slave to your other brothers forever for some reason. And so everybody's happy. And then Noah lives another 350 years, and the rest is a story for another time.